Let's talk about armored cars and how you should drive them. So there are multiple versions of armored cars. Today I'm going to be talking about two armored cars in specific, the Warden's O'Brien V110 and then the Colonial's T3 Cyphos and all their variants. That way you guys don't get confused on, some of the stuff I'm saying. They may not be applicable to heavier versions or iterations of armored cars. I'm just going to be talking about the more light, faster, and versatile armored cars. Just so that this is a quick video, I'll add images on screen along with stats so you guys know what I'm talking about and what they do. So talking about the O'Brien's V110 has multiple different variants, one of them being the Gravekeeper. Then we got the Highlander, and then we have the Wildjack. One's an ARC armored car, an ARC RPG launcher. The other one's going to be an all-terrain vehicle, which is the Highlander with tracks on it, and then the Wildjack's going to be a flamethrower. All these have different variations of health. The one I see utilized the least efficiently is going to be the 792, just the standard issue O'Brien, with an inventory and armament of 792 ammo. It can hold 50 rounds per magazine, and it can hold approximately 30 magazines. It's got a range of 40 meters, and I feel like it's super underutilized because most of the people driving them are trying to get within bayonet range to shoot some of the infantry, which is just not how you use them at all. If we look over here, we have 900 health, which seems kind of low compared to the Zyphos, which is going to have a little more health. However, the armor's 2700, which is a lot higher than the Zyphos. 25 armats, 105 repair costs to re-armor it. So it has a drive time of approximately 50 meters if you get the 150 liters of diesel and or petroleum, and it is crewed by 2 people. So then we have the Zyphos, which is the Colonial armored car. The Zyphos also has a 792 turret, meter 40 range, magazine size 50, and a 30 magazine capacity. It's got 1,000 health, a little more than the Warden's armored car, 2,100 tank armor. So it's got significantly less armor than the Warden's one. Repair cost to rearmor is going to be 95. Cost to build is 25 armats. So the variations are going to be the T5, which is going to be the 20 mil cannon armored car variant, and then the T8 Gemini, which is going to be the RPG launcher variant, which I think it's really good. Same thing for these armored cars. They're going to be two-man crew, which you're just going to have the driver, and then you're going to have the gunner, and then whatever support roles they're also playing. So what's so great about the armored cars? I mean, for one, they're cost effective, right? 25 armats, they're a fraction of the cost of a tank. I mean, if you get them out there and you use them efficiently, they have a 360 cannon. They're just the standard ones, right? That turns at a pretty good rate. And then there's 792 ammunition with a 50 round clip. I mean, either you're out there frontlining early war and you're making good decisions based off of ranged and where the infantry is and what the intelligence is on the map. You're racking up kills and you're helping the push, or you're playing a support role and you're killing infantry that are coming after the tanks. That's what an armored car is. It's mainly support, right? You're not taking a whole town with an armored car. What you are doing is you're mowing down the infantry or keeping them at bay or disrupting partisan activity so that you can either secure the area or help the infantry and the other armored vehicles push. So they're cost effective. They move at high speeds and they're really maneuverable, and they're excellent for flanking, harassing infantry, supporting tanks, and disrupting partisan activity. Now, what are their weaknesses? Obviously, their light armor and their light health. Any anti-infantry weapon is just going to eat them. That's it. That's the weakness. They're less effective in direct combat. You don't want to try to get as close as you can to infantry to destroy anything. And they're pretty limited when you're considering pushing the enemy back. Right? You're not charging the enemy with a line of armored cars. No, they'd get smashed up, right? Because, just small round ammunitions from the rifle or the SMGs will damage it and disable them. It's impossible. You can't do it. You need infantry support, or you need to be supporting a tank push. In case you didn't know, you can find armored cars in public stockpiles. You're going to be looking for seaports. You're going to be looking for storage depots. They could be parked on the battlefield, not being used, just because somebody logged off. They drove it up there and they logged off, right? You can make them yourselves, right? They're actually easy to make. If you were going to play solo and you want to do armored car content, you could literally go get the RMATs required for an hour by just, sitting by a mine, putting them in the refinery, making a whole bunch of armored cars, and then going out with them. They're so low cost that it's actually not unreasonable for you to do Logi on them. Just bear in mind, if you are going to be pulling out public stockpiles and you're not going to be doing Logi for them, that's fine. Just know that, try to make your best judgment, try to make the armored cars last, try to soak up the knowledge and the strategy that we're going to be talking about just right after we go over equipment and roles. So in terms of the equipment you need, it's going to be the same, and I'll post a picture on screen. Same thing that you'd be using if you were a tank driver. You either need a sapper/engineer uniform or padded boiler suit/tanker uniform. You'll see what they look like on screen. I'll post pictures of them. You're going to need a hammer. You're going to need as many B-mats as you can carry. Substitute B-mats for if you want to use a gun. You're going to need a gas mask. You're going to need a gas filter. You're going to need binocs and a radio. You have those things. You have everything that you need to operate an armored car efficiently on the battlefield. So long as you are constantly checking the map and then occasionally checking the binoculars so you know what's going on. If you don't have intelligence on the map, you're primarily checking the binocs just so you have a good idea of what's going on around you. Now for the roles, it's simple. There's only 2 spots, driver and gunner. And I've talked about it in a previous video. The driver, you're in charge. You're the commander. You should know the vehicle most, right? You should have the most experience. You should know that an armored car's range is approximately 40 meters, what armaments it has, what the armament's capabilities are. You should have a general awareness of the map by checking, the intel by pressing M. You should occasionally check binocs and see beyond what intel can see to see if there's any tanks pushing, to see how big the infantry force is, right? You're in charge. Driver is commander/engineer as well. All right. Now for the gunner, you're the intel, you're the support role, right? We don't need any gunner commanders. I mean, like I said before, you might be aiming down sight if you're a gunner and somebody hits you from a side and you can't see that happening. And, the driver wants to pull back, but you're the commander. You told the driver to listen to you and you tell them to go forward. You don't even realize how many hits you've been taking. The driver doesn't see what you're shooting at most of the time because you want to shoot at the very tip, the very end of your maximum efficiency range, right? Just to keep a good distance away from yourself and the enemy, right? So you don't know what's going on with the vehicle. You only know what's going on beyond the vehicle. Let the driver do his thing. The gunner, you're going to need the same uniform. You're going to substitute B-mats for a gun. And you're also going to be doing the engineer support role. That's your job. You're the gunner, you're the engineer, and you're the intel support. Lastly, if you don't know how to fuel up the vehicle, you probably shouldn't be driving it, but I'll go over it one more time. It's fueled by either petrol or diesel. It's got 150 liter capacity. I'll put the images on screen of where you can find the fuel. You can find them from fuel tanks. You can find them from fuel trucks. You can hand fuel them by putting the fuel in your inventory and then pressing 3 to pull it out and fueling it up. All these can be found at various locations across the map. Typically, they're around town halls. Typically, they're around the front line. Typically, they're around seaports and storage depots. So now we're going to be talking about strategy. Right here, I have a video of early war content in an armored car. I'm in a prototype armored car, and I believe we are in Iron's End or Iron's Passage, and we are downhill. There's a lot of things to consider here. I'm the driver. This is a video of me doing infantry support. I'm not at the front lines. I'm pushing back the enemy infantry when they push up, or peeking up when my infantry peeks up with me. So we're going to watch some snippets of it, and we'll talk about a little bit of it as the video goes on. So we're downhill. I'm picking down into the trenches. I have my gunner. I'm telling him where to shoot. He's shooting into trenches. Because we are higher than him, we are able to shoot in those trenches. I'm not going beyond the enemy infantry. Over here, I feel a little bit safe. We got enemies up the hill. He's able to shoot up. I can see clearly ahead of me. I'm not looking to the left. Look at this guy. This guy's trying to charge us. Again, we are going downhill, meaning every time I want to back up, it's going to be slower for me. So I'm creeping. I'm not charging down the hill because you gain too much momentum. You're going to send yourself flying. You're going to try to stop. You're going to slowly stop and then slowly start backpedaling up. And then all of a sudden, you got multiple enemy infantry on you. And look at that range. Because we're uphill, we could see more, right? You don't need to be all the way up there. You could still see. Just because you don't see the enemies dying doesn't mean your gunner isn't getting kills. And I just think this is an excellent showcase of like beautiful enemy infantry kills from a higher elevation. If you're on flatlands, it is going to be harder to see, but it is going to look like this to your gunner. Just because you as the driver don't see these kills in action doesn't mean your gunner doesn't see it. We're just fortunate enough to be on a slope, on the top of a slope, being able to look down and just watch enemy mow down. Now, right here, I overextended a little bit. There was some infantry, but I had been playing there for a while. Nobody was setting up. The enemy wasn't setting up any, anti-armor, stationary weapons. Nobody really had anything. They were just kind of running at us when we were mowing them down. I just think this is a good showcase of what's possible, right? Look at this guy was trying to sticky rush us. He's running uphill. He's slow. He's carrying heavy stuff. He's not going to get us. I'm not going to show you the whole video, obviously. This is just a snippet, me talking over the things that I'm considering. We're considering the corners. We're considering our line of sight. We're considering the fact that enemies running uphill at a slow rate. We're just going to stay here all day, and we're going to mow them down, as you should. If you're a warden in an armored car, just relax. Just relax. You don't need to push. You're not a tank. It's okay. It's early war. Let's just rack up those kills. How are you gonna help the war efforts if you're dead? Right? Things to consider. So I'm not showing you my content to like blow smoke up my ass. I'm showing you it so that you know what an armored car is supposed to look like in the early war. You know what it's supposed to be doing, right? I've seen so many people rush in armored cars, fly down hills, just drive straight to the front lines and get deleted in 1 to 2 seconds. And they're not alts. They're not fake accounts, colonials coming in. They're just new players. If you're a new player, this is what it looks like, right? Like we're just mowing them down. All right. So I'm going to show you another video. It's from a stream I did recently. And it's basically, this is late war. This is end game. We're teched up all the way. I'm in an armored car because I like armored cars. I like getting new players. I like putting a driver in the seat, whether they're new or vets, and they get to rack up some kills for once because it's tough out there getting kills. But I know how to drive, so I'm going to help them get kills. So this is one of the most important things you need to know as an armored car late war, and it's this right here.
Okay. Fuck you, liar.
Is this a furry game? Holy fucking shit.
I see tanks.
I'm not working across.
Bam. Look at that. Did you see that? That was beautiful. The technique, the execution. Did you see what I just did? If you don't understand, let me enlighten you. I'm an armored car. I'm not a tank. I support tanks. I saw some tanks. I knew they were there on the map because I had checked my map. I know there's enemy infantry all around us, particularly to the west side and southwest side. What do? I go up to the tanks and I park right on their southwest side because I don't need to look for the kills. The kills will come to you. Remember, as an armored car, we're a support vehicle. We are not a tank. If I were to go down that road, I'm going to be met with infantry late war. All the infantry has anti-tank stuff or anti-armored stuff in their back pockets ready to throw at you. There's tanks down the road. You're going to explode. If I leave too far from the defenses, a group of 4 partisans are going to shoot my vehicle and disable me. I mean, we just got to make smart decisions, right? So as you can see here, I pulled away from the armored vehicles a little bit. I'm looking at the map. That's really good. I'm looking at the intel map, reconnecting my audio, making sure I communicate with my driver. I'm using this as cover. Why am I using it as cover? Because I don't want a tank or RPG to be launched at me. I'm completely aware of everything going on around me because I'm checking the map.
Right, John, to your right.
Look at, I tell John something. Listen to this, because I know, but John doesn't know. Hold on, I checked the map. Reconnect my audio. I tell John something right here because I know, but he doesn't. I'm looking at the map. John can't see. And I just
John John.
I just realized John was looking the wrong way because I was looking at my map and looking around me. All right, so the driver has to be aware. Right, this is why I say the driver has to be the commander.
He's
Right,
behind this building.
not that you guys can see the intelligence map. Obviously, this is a stream. I don't want to give away any intelligence for the colonials to use against me. But it just highlights that drivers need to be aware and drivers should be the commanders of vehicles. So I'm not going to play any sound, but basically what I'm doing is this is a showcase of engaged in partisan activity. I pulled away from the front line because there's a group of colonial infantry engaging a different section of the battlefield, and there's not a lot of them. There's no armor. So what am I doing? I'm going to engage them. Let me skip to that. So I've finally reached the end where the partisans are. I'm just navigating my way through some lines. And we just engaged the partisans. That's what we're here for, right? The tanks can't move as fast as us. So what are we doing? We're gonna come meet the partisans. And of course, I'm making fun of them, right? You got to hit them with the demoralization as well. But this is just another good example of what we're meant to be doing. Now, I did end up losing this vehicle, but just to put it into perspective, I want to show you I lasted approximately an hour and 48 minutes with it, almost 2 hours in an armored car. Late war. So long as you're paying attention to your map, you're using your binocs, and you're engaging infantry wisely, you can have 2-hour game sessions in an armored car. Late war. Who would have thought, right? Who would have thought? Anyway, I just wanted to let you guys know it was possible, right? So the people who tell you, you drive up with an armored car and they laugh at you and they go, "Oh, what is that gonna do?" It's like, well, dude, I'm here for you, and guess what? I'm pretty kick-ass at it because you know what to do now. First thing you got to start with is the knowledge. So I wanted to do like an analysis and breakdown and give you guys an example of what looking at a map looks like, because some of you guys may not know what's going on. So this is a map that I just pulled up offline that has all the same symbols and basically relays the same information that I would be seeing if I was gaining intelligence on the Warden faction, right? So let me put you through a scenario. So how do we break down this map, right? If we look and we're the blue guys right here, we're the Wardens, right? All those little dots are infantry. Immediately it looks like we're outgunned and we're outmanned, which means one thing: it's a fair fight because Wardens always win. I digress. If you were pulling up to the front lines in an armored car, you would have to consider that there's not a whole lot of there's not a whole lot of allied infantry. There's a ton of enemy infantry, and we got a line of vehicles. Now, you'd probably pull back somewhere right here on the map if you see where my mouse is. Pull out your binocs and try to get a good understanding of what those vehicles are, because they may be trucks. They may not be tanks. They may be a line of armored cars. Now, if you're considering they're just trucks, right? What you can do is say, okay, I know that they're just trucks, and I know when I press M on the map, I see all this enemy force, and they could be moving around. You can literally pull up to right behind where your allied infantry are, and literally poke them at your max distance, and you can keep this whole area at bay just by moving around and parking strategically. Now, if you see that these are enemy tanks when you just pull up and you pull out your binocs, what you will have to make a determination on is if you're going to stay there and defend or if you're going to leave, because there's almost nothing you can do if there's no defenses. Luckily, I see that we have some defenses here. Also, there could be a line of trenches and bunkers that may have anti-tank stuff. So those tanks may not be able to push effectively, especially if they're lightly armored tanks. They might not have enough to push there. If all this is AT stuff, if the small infantry force here is experienced and they're just taking down armored vehicle or tank after tank, you might be able to stay there. But what you're doing is you're playing a support role, right? So you're going around and you're coming off road. You're hiding behind stuff. You're not going out into open field. You're staying close to AT. You're hiding behind stuff to engage all the colonial infantry on the left and the right side. This is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about flanking and you being a support role, right? You have to make smart decisions based on what the enemy is doing. You're very reactive. Being proactive in Foxhole almost never happens. If you're being proactive, you're with an armored car, you're literally waiting at the border, waiting for a logistical supply line behind enemy lines, waiting for partisan activity. That's how you be proactive. Being proactive in Foxhole is basically logistics, right? Protecting logistics, doing logistics. That's proactive. reactivity in an armored car is the name of the game. All right, so you have to smartly react, and I hope this breakdown, kind of, helps you assess situations, because seeing this in an armored car and only seeing a few allied vehicles, say they're tanks or not. If they're battle tanks, I'd feel a little bit safer, especially if there are no enemy battle tanks. But seeing this is intimidating, right? Because you don't know what it is. You have to get up there. All right, so that was just my breakdown of an intelligence map. I just wanted to show you guys so you guys know what it looks like on the map. So we're not going to watch any more videos, right? I just want to talk about strategy a little bit. Just the last few things. It's going to be the end of the video. And if you want to stop watching from here, I've told you everything you need to know about armored cars. But if we talk about strategy and analysis, there's things to consider. You need to consider flanking, right? You need to consider where the enemy is coming at you. You need to consider the enemy range. What does the enemy have? Can they shoot you? Do they have infantry weapons that are less range? Even if they're AT, if they're AT and they're less range, you can outrange them. It's okay to get close, right? Especially if their effective range isn't at 40 meters. You have to consider engaging partisans, right? Are partisans coming behind enemy lines to destroy crucial infrastructure or cut off logistical supplies? That's where you should be if you're in an armored car, especially if you're mobile. You have to consider whether it's safe to go out at night. Now, me, I can play at night because I understand that I need to be checking the map constantly. I have eyes. When you're within an intelligence range and you're checking your map, you have eyes at night, even without seeing. So if there's one enemy partisan in the middle of the night, it's probably safe to say they're probably not going to be able to kill you, so long as you keep a safe distance. If they have an RPG and they got 2 shots, they could probably kill you, but if you have a good gunner, they could take them out before you die. Another thing to consider is if you're supporting tanks or not. If we got a large tank force, do they need support on the rear? Yes, they do. They always do. Any support is good support. Do they need support on their flanks? Probably. Are you going to be on road or off road? Right? Do you have an armored car that's not an off-road vehicle? Should you just stick to the road, or do you have a large enough force, or are you savvy enough to take the armored car off-road and drive it off-road? These are things to consider. What kind of armored car are you using? Another thing, are you going to be using the 20 meter colonial armored car? You can be using the RPG arc launcher, the RPG straight shooter, which is on the colonial side. Are you going to be using the 792 armored car, the standard one? Do you have an off-road armored car? These are all things to consider. These are all good things to think about when you're driving an armored car. Again, I'm Social Seb. Thank you guys for watching the video. I tried to make this a shorter video, but to be honest with you, if you want to understand how to effectively play the game and win the war, these are going to be longer videos, and I appreciate if you stuck around to the end of the video. Anyway, you guys have a good day. Callahan protects.